And welcome to the Factor Uncensored. First up tonight, Hunter Biden, the son of President Joe Biden, has been convicted. A federal jury in Delaware found him guilty on 3 felony counts related to an illegal gun purchase in October 2018. On the same day his son Hunter was convicted, President Joe Biden spoke about the need for stricter gun control.
It builds upon the dozen of executive actions my administration has taken to reduce gun violence, more than any of my predecessors, and I suspect more than all of them combined. Everything from cracking down on ghost guns, gun trafficking, so much more. Folks, we're not stopping there. It's time, once again, to do what I did when I was a senator. Ban assault weapons.
Back to Hunter's case, President Biden says he will accept the outcome and continue to respect the judicial process. Hunter says the support from his family and friends throughout this trial outweighs any disappointment over the jury's decision. He now faces 25 years in prison. No sentencing date has been set yet. Joining us to talk about it, former federal prosecutor Phil Hilder, University of Houston downtown professor Dr. David Branham, and Judge Mike Fields. So, Phil, let's start with you. Are you surprised by any of this, the verdict today, the guilty today?
No, I'm not surprised. The jury heard the evidence and came back with the guilty verdict, but if you listen to what the evidence was over the course of the last couple of days, you'd understand why.
All right. Judge Fields, let's bring you into this conversation. We didn't have to be here. Initially, there was a plea agreement, right? Tell the viewers about that.
So there was a plea agreement offered. For whatever reason, the plea agreement did not go through, and we ended up in a trial situation. I think the most important thing here is what was said just a moment ago, that the jury process worked. It worked in this case just as it worked in President Trump's case. And if the public can get behind our jury system and there's integrity in our jury system, then I think we're going to be okay. But as I'm sure we'll discuss later, you never know what's going to happen.
So, Phil, did they really think on Biden's side that they could sway this jury with all the evidence that prosecutors had in place?
I think so. I mean, most of the evidence, almost all the evidence actually was circumstantial evidence, but circumstantial evidence holds the same weight as direct. And in circumstances here, you didn't have anybody that actually witnessed him at with the gun during that 11-day period that he owned the gun. However, the circumstantial evidence was that, yes, he was an addict. He admitted to it in a book. His ex-wife, his daughter, his girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, all admitted that he was high on cocaine during that time period, but not on those particular dates. And then also, apparently, they found the weapon, the gun, that was not used, incidentally, in a bin. The police, it was turned over, somebody had found it in the garbage, turned it over to the police, and had been bagged for a couple of years. They went back and they did an analysis, and apparently there was cocaine on the pouch that came with the gun. So again, circumstantial evidence, nothing direct, but again, that holds the same weight as direct evidence.
Dr. Brenham, let's bring you in from the historical perspective here. What are we looking at?
Well, once again, we just saw a former president get convicted of a felony for the first time. Now, for the first time, we have a president's child being convicted of a felony. So this is unprecedented in our country's history. And it shows that the political climate, to me, it shows that the political climate is just a lot more vindictive, a lot more just go after your enemy than it ever has been before. And to me, I personally think this is an issue that we really need to work to solve.
And of course, we're going to address that in the second block. But before we get to that, I am sure there are a lot of crackheads out here buying guns legally, people who may be on cocaine legally. What happened in this case that puts him at a standard that most individuals who buy guns don't even face?
He's the president's son.
He's the president's son.
Simple
No,
as
it's
that.
true.
And we'll get to that second block. That falls back into the second
This
block.
is political. This would not have happened with a regular person. We've seen it in both the Trump case and the Biden case. This is something where politics make it where it's impossible, in my opinion, for these people in such high visibility in politics to get a fair trial. There's so much political pressure that it's just impossible to step back and allow the system to work.
Well, I think that there's a difference in the Trump case as opposed to the Biden case in this respect. The Trump matter was a purely political matter in terms of these were political reports that he had problems with and a political payoff. In the Biden case, there was nothing political about it. It was a person who bought a gun who shouldn't have purchased the gun. And the jurors even said, we didn't think about the fact that he was the president's son. Now, we have to take them at their word because we have to have trust and confidence in the judicial system. And I don't think that I can say that enough times.
Well,
our country is based on the rule of law.
There was trust in the judicial system, but the events that occurred, this failed plea bargain, a lot of politics that are going in. This took 6 years to bring to trial. This isn't something that's normal. A case that doesn't go 6 years and then we bring it to trial. We have a failed plea bargain and then we do that. This is something that only happens when you have very special circumstances. And in these circumstances, it's political in nature. That's the reason.
And we're not done yet. There's also another trial that we're looking at, taxes, right?
Yes. Yes, there is. There's a tax trial coming up later on this year.
And when we look at the potential for 25 years for this case, what's the likelihood that he will actually serve in any time because he's first-time convicted felon, no criminal nothing on the record.
Yeah.
No history in the past, but do you think he will serve any actual time?
No, probably not. I mean, the 25 years is a misnomer. It's the amalgamation of the 3 felonies, the statutory maximum. What controls here in the federal system are the federal sentencing guidelines. And in these guidelines, in this particular case, he's looking at anywhere from 15 to 21 months. However, because it's his first time, that may be reduced to like 10 to 16 months, in which case that's in the area of probation. So the court could give him probation, given the fact that that weapon was never used, had it for a short period of time, and that he's a first-time offender.
All right, don't go anywhere. We'll continue this conversation in just a moment here on The Factor Uncensored. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored, continuing coverage of a scandal connected to President Joe Biden's son, Hunter. He is now facing a maximum of 25 years in prison. Today, he was convicted of 3 felonies for lying on a mandatory gun purchase form in 2018 when he said he was not illegally using or addicted to drugs. This outcome has been something many Republicans have been waiting on. Meanwhile, Democrats have been calling for the conviction of former President Donald Trump, a wish that was granted less than 2 weeks ago for them. Are both sides of the aisle satisfied now? That's a question our guests are here to answer. Are they satisfied? You know, the Republicans were calling for Biden's head. He was a chink in the armor of Joe Biden, and they got him now. So are they satisfied? And are the Democrats satisfied now that President Trump has been convicted? Dr. Brenham, let's bring you in as a political expert here.
They're absolutely not satisfied. I can tell you that right now. They're not satisfied. They want to go after, I mean, this is a battle that's been going on in both parties. Remember, we spent, I think, $32 million to look at Russian collusion, didn't find anything. But now we have 6 indictments on former President Trump. They're not satisfied. They're still, Hannity is still talking about the laptop, right? We've had several people scan the laptop. They haven't found anything, but Hunter Biden's laptop.
It's too juicy to let go.
Yeah, it's just so hard for them to let go of anything that can destroy the other side. And it's something that I'm hoping the country gets frustrated with and said, okay, that's enough. Going after Hunter Biden for, just because you have an idea. If you have evidence, that's fine. But if you don't have evidence, let's stop this. I mean, if you're going after Donald Trump and you don't have evidence, stop it. And so, we need to get back to where we were. We had some respect for the judicial system, where we were not a country that went after our political enemies. We're not that country anymore, and it needs to stop.
And Judge Fields, would you agree on both sides we're going after our political enemies? What?
I think on both sides we have extreme elements that will stop at nothing to take the other side down. I think in the middle, where most of the country resides, they find this to be both troublesome and a little boring. Look, if the Biden administration is in this great conspiracy to convict someone, then they're not very good at it. Because what ended up happening is the president's own son was convicted. So I think what we have are two men who were guilty of the crimes with which they were charged. They were convicted. Enough is enough. Let's get down to business. And the business of the country is, what are we going to do about the issues that plague us, the issues that we're all concerned about? That's it. Everything else, all of this outside, inside politics, I'm tired of it.
Well, yes, we're tired of it. However, I think that these were both fair and just prosecutions. I think the rule of law held. I think it shows that we are still a country of laws. I hope that we survive that, because the world looks to us for that stability, that pillar of laws that we abide by. And both of these prosecutions were meritorious prosecutions. If you're guilty, then you're guilty.
I'm not taking anything away from that. These were meritorious prosecutions. The jurors did their jobs. They did the jobs that Americans do every single day in the courtroom, holding people accountable for the crimes they commit. What I'm saying is, okay, box checked. Let's get to the business of the country. Let's get to the business of the people and get past these political squabbles in the courtrooms. That's not where these things should play out.
When all of these political squabbles lead to prosecutions, do we become, on the outside looking in, as a corrupt country? We have a former president now convicted. We have a president's son now convicted within 2 weeks of each other. Are other countries and individuals saying that America ain't the same anymore?
They are, and the issue is they're comparing us to other countries that have been very corrupt in their process. So, I don't understand this. If you cannot run against Donald Trump on the things that Donald Trump has done, then there's something wrong. I mean, there's plenty that Donald Trump does that you can run against without making up, something that is just out of left field. I mean, you can run on the issues with what people have done. We don't have to do this. So other countries are looking at this. Phil is talking about this. I kind of disagree with him, because we have a history of injustice in this country. If you're from Tulia, Texas, you know better. But we need to get our judicial integrity back so we don't look like the country that you're talking about.
Wrap us up, Phil.
Well, what terrifies me is what's to come. To hear Trump talk about retribution, talk about gutting the Justice Department, filling with people that will do his bidding, acting as if they're his personal attorney, cutting down the FBI, defunding the FBI, all rubbish. That is going to destroy our democracy. And if we don't hold firm on that, then we're done as a country, as we know it today.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight here on The Factor Uncensored. We appreciate your expertise.